Hello guys, I'm Tom, and today we're going to find out who the clown Stitches really is. Within the vast and twisted universe of modern horror cinema, especially that which dwells in the dark and shadowy waters of low-budget films, there exists a character who has managed to etch himself indelibly into the memories of audiences. A character whose mere presence sends shivers down the spine, whose grotesque appearance and disturbing aura make him an icon of contemporary horror. The clown Stitches. This macabre being made his stellar appearance in the eponymous film released in 2012, and since then, he has transcended the screen to become an unavoidable reference within the genre, a symbol of the perfect blend of the absurd and the terrifying. In life, Stitches was nothing more than a mediocre clown, a simple street performer who, despite his stage name, lacked true passion or dedication for his craft. His irresponsible and vulgar behavior, his penchant for cruel jokes, and his constant negligence led him to a fate as absurd as it was bloody. During a children's birthday party, a group of kids plotted what seemed to be an innocent prank, but because of its unpredictable nature, it ended with the death of Richard Grindle, his real name, in the most grotesque way imaginable. However, Stitch's story did not end with his death. Years later, the clown returned from beyond as a malevolent entity, a spirit that retained his circus appearance but was now steeped in darkness and resentment. His transformation was the result of a secret ritual, an ancient tradition that all clowns of the Brotherhood of Mirth had to fulfill as part of their initiation. This ritual, shrouded in mystery and dark magic, granted Stitches supernatural abilities which, combined with his sarcastic style, cruelty, and imposing presence, turned him into one of the most unforgettable and disturbing antagonists of modern horror cinema. In this story, we will delve into every detail of his history and origins, exploring his terrifying cadaverous appearance, his supernatural powers, and his connection to the secret clown brotherhood responsible for guarding initiation rituals. Despite the striking nature of his figure, little is known about his childhood or the years preceding his death. The only certainty is that Richard Grindle was born in England, in a remote and time-forgotten corner, where he lived in a dilapidated caravan with his lover. There, among tattered curtains and old suitcases, he carefully safeguarded a hand-painted egg that replicated his makeup in miniature, an object full of symbolism, representing his identity as a clown and his connection to the secrets of the circus brotherhood. Before adopting his stage name, Richard had received precise instructions. If he were to die during a performance, he had to perform a ritual that would ensure his spirit would not remain trapped among the living. Without understanding the magnitude or seriousness of these words, he carried it out without conviction, believing it to be an absurd tradition, almost just another joke among colleagues. He never imagined that this seemingly harmless act would seal his fate and condemn him to return from the world of the dead, hungry for revenge. The event that changed his life forever occurred during the birthday party of a boy named Tom, who was celebrating his 10th birthday. Stitches arrived late, distracted by his lover and the chaotic life he led. In his haste, he drove recklessly to the party house, trying to make up for lost time. Once there, he began his improvised performance. Clumsy juggling, tasteless jokes, and exaggeratedly comical gestures. But the children, impatient and entertained by their own games, soon showed that they would not be impressed. Vinny, one of Tom's friends, with childlike cunning, tied the clown's shoelaces without him noticing. Minutes later, Tom threw a soccer ball straight at his head, and chaos erupted. Stitches tripped, falling onto an open dishwasher where a kitchen knife awaited, embedding horrifically into his left eye. Despite the severity of the injury, Stitches rose unsteadily, driven by pain and a primal instinct for revenge. Amid screams of fury and pools of blood, he attempted to lunge at Tom, but tragedy struck again. He slipped on his own torrent of blood, and in a final fall, the knife ended up buried in his head definitively, marking his physical death and the beginning of his supernatural legend. The trauma of that day left an indelible mark on Tom, who decided never to celebrate birthdays again, avoiding any reminder of the event. Stitch's body was buried, and during the funeral, the members of the Brotherhood of Mirth recovered the painted egg and placed it in a secret mausoleum. There, Tom discovered a chilling truth. When a clown dies without completing his act, his spirit remains trapped until the show is finished. The warning was clear. Although a joke told twice loses its humor, Stitches would return to finish what he had left unfinished. 6 years later, a teenage Tom tries to face his fears and regain some normalcy in his life. With his mother absent, he finally organizes a party with his schoolmates, trusting his friend Bing, who assures him that nothing bad will happen. But ominous signs quickly manifest. At school, Tom has a terrifying vision in which his teacher transforms into a macabre clown who threatens him, announcing that his time has come. That same night, an invitation to the party flies out the window and lands on Stitch's grave, prompting his return from the realm of the dead. The day of the celebration turns into a true spectacle of horror. Stitches emerges from his grave with his macabre laugh and unleashes a bloodbath. His first victim, Paul, is grotesquely mutilated, while the clown performs twisted tricks like pulling a rabbit from his mouth and kicking its head as if it were a ball. The carnage continues. Bulger is dismembered using a can opener that exposes his brain as a canned product, and Richie is transformed into grotesque balloon figures before his head bursts under pressure. Stitches does not stop. He impales Sarah with an umbrella, terrorizes the remaining guests, and kidnaps Kate, Tom's love interest, deforming her as part of his twisted circus spectacle. Meanwhile, Tom and Bing try to escape, but Bing, consumed by fear, flees, leaving Tom alone against the monster. In the final confrontation, Tom remembers the crucial role of the painted egg. The key to defeating Stitches lies in destroying the object that connects him to the living world. Together with Kate, he ventures into the Clown Brotherhood's mausoleum, where the ultimate battle reaches epic proportions. Among ancient tombstones, dark rituals, and a never-ending horror show, Tom finally confronts the clown. At the climax of the final confrontation, the tension reaches almost unbearable levels. Screams, chaos, and the metallic smell of blood blend with an atmosphere thick with fear and despair. It is in this critical moment that an event occurs which completely changes the course of the story. Almost instinctively, Tom's best friend silently approaches Stitches and, without the clown noticing, reties his shoelaces. The gesture seems insignificant, almost trivial, but its effect is immediate and devastating. Stitches, focused on chasing Tom, trips over his own feet, falling violently onto his precious egg, the object that had long symbolized his identity and his connection to the Clown Brotherhood. The impact produces a dull thud, and for a moment, it seems as though everything might shatter. Yet the egg endures, maintaining its integrity in an almost supernatural way, defying what had seemed impossible. Time slows as Tom watches, aware that this might be his only chance. A moment later, with the precision of someone who has trained their whole life to survive, Tom makes a desperate decision. With a calculated impulse, he kicks the clown's head with all his strength. The blow, combined with the previous fall, causes Stitches to collide violently with the egg. That final impact triggers the inevitable. The link that held Stitches between the living world and his circus essence is broken. Death materializes in a grotesque and theatrical explosion, a burst of blood, entrails, and fragments of makeup floating like deformed balloons in the air, leaving behind a dense and ominous silence. Although it may seem that the massacre has ended, The story delivers one last chill that settles in the viewer's mind. Members of the clown brotherhood begin carefully repairing the broken egg, hinting that Stitch's return may not be over. The cycle of vengeance and horror could be reactivated, suggesting that the peace achieved is, at best, temporary. Thus concludes, for now, the dark and disturbing saga of the most grotesque clown in modern cinema. Throughout this odyssey, we have unraveled every facet of who Stitches was. His humble and tragic origins, his terrifying appearance, his supernatural abilities, and his unique blend of horror and humor that make him a fascinating and chilling antagonist. In life, Richard Grindle, his real name, was a middle-aged man of disheveled appearance. His blue eyes contrasted with the disorder of his dark hair, streaked with gray at the temples. His clown outfit, although ridiculous and colorful, was part of his identity. A loose red and green jacket with a large yellow flower on the chest, baggy pants with suspenders, a yellow shirt, and a green undershirt. His makeup, his distinguishing feature, included a white painted face, exaggerated red lips, and 2 red lines descending from his forehead to his eyes, completed with a classic red nose, oversized yellow and blue shoes, and a wig with gray streaks on the sides. Everything about him was designed to provoke laughter, although in retrospect, his appearance already seemed slightly disturbing. After his resurrection as a demonic spirit, every element of his appearance became a reflection of his malevolence and decay. The white makeup now resembled rotting flesh. The red lines became deep scars, permanent witnesses to his death. His hair grew tangled and unkempt, his nose grotesquely deformed, and his clothing, now darker and stained with dried blood, reflected the spectral nature of his existence. Every movement of Stitches evoked the image of a constantly moving corpse, a puppet of terror. His personality, though transformed, never lost the essence of Richard Grindle: crude, vulgar, irresponsible, and malicious. However, his sadism intensified to unimaginable levels. His dark humor and macabre jokes intertwined with the horror, creating a disturbing duality that made him unpredictable and terrifying. Curiosities from his life reveal a contradictory background. A newspaper covering his death shows Richard wearing a wedding ring, while the story describes a woman as his lover, confirming his infidelity. Despite this, there were signs that he genuinely enjoyed making children laugh, even though his attempt during Tom's party ended in tragedy, triggering his transformation into a vengeful spirit. As a specter, Stitches kills with a perverse sense of irony. Each death reflects the humiliations he suffered in life. Bulger, who built a snowman using a clown skeleton to mock him, is killed with a can opener, turning his brain into a grotesque dessert. Richie, who had asked for a balloon dog, sees his intestines transformed into balloon figures and his head inflated until it bursts. Each act of violence is a macabre nod to his own history of humiliation and frustration. His supernatural abilities make him practically invincible. Superhuman strength capable of tearing limbs apart, resilience that allows him to survive severe injuries, and lethal creativity that transforms any ordinary object into a deadly weapon. He can appear and disappear almost at will, anticipating his victims, making him a relentless hunter. But even Stitches has vulnerabilities. His arrogance leads him to prolong the torture of his victims, providing small windows of escape. While he can be momentarily stopped with blunt force or bladed weapons, his true weakness is the painted egg with his makeup. Destroying it means destroying him and severing his connection to the living world. The tradition of the eggs has historical roots. In late 1940s England, clowns painted eggs with their makeup to record their personal style and protect their artistic identity. In the film, this practice becomes a sinister ritual, charged with magic and death, but in reality, it was simply a visual and creative archive. The movie Stitches directed by Connor McMahon and co-written with David O'Brien, was a co-production between the United Kingdom, Ireland, and Sweden. Despite a modest release, with box office earnings barely exceeding $90,000 against a budget of $1.5 million, it eventually became a cult slasher classic, appreciated for its combination of dark humor, extreme violence, and the creation of an unforgettable antagonist. Ultimately, Stitches may not be the most innovative villain in the history of horror cinema, but his extravagance, brutality, and blend of irony and dark humor make him one of the most memorable and disturbing characters of the modern genre. His story is a reminder that even behind the mask of a clown, there can be a horror as profound as it is fascinating.